This is episode number 176 of the Homeowners Show. Whether you're a DIY or looking to hire, we're here to help you find the best information and options for you and your home. My name is Kevin Hackett, and here with me is Craig Williams.
Hello, and welcome to Homeowners Show. We're so glad that you could join us for another live episode of the Homeowners Show here from the studios. Glad you could join us. Somebody's volume is up in the studio. That's okay. We got multiple guests. Who's got it?
I don't know. Someone's louder than the other. Oh,
there, we found it. We found it.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, look at that. Look at
the bumpity bumps.
Things are happening.
Yeah, that's right. Hey, it's okay. We're here. It's just a regular night, chilly night, but things are good. What's up with you, man?
Oh, dude. So I really only have one thing that I want to open the show with, Kev.
Okay.
How about them Cowboys?
Oh my gosh, that's the one thing that I told you I did not want to talk about. You little jerk. I do not want to talk about them.
So y'all, this is fun for me because I could really just give a flying fart in the wind about professional sports, but Kevin really cares about this stuff. So. But it's because Dak is his favorite player.
No, he's not. Not only is he not my favorite player, he's my least favorite player. And we had so many things wrong tonight, okay, y'all? We can go there if you want to, but at the end of the day, we hired the wrong person long term. He's horrible.
Yep.
He's terrible.
So would you rather have him or you want Aikman back? Even like in his old age and decrepitness.
No, look, here's the thing. Aikman was completely overrated in his day. Absolutely.
That's going to win you no friends.
Look, he was a winner. And he had a supporting cast that were also winners, all the way down to the head coach.
Right.
I'm really, really, really good. Everything was perfect about that team.
Sure.
But we don't have that right now. There's no doubt. The Cowboys don't have that all the way down to the head coach. Okay, we got problems. I get it. But at the end of the day, unfortunately, we live in a system where the quarterback gets wins and losses. It falls squarely on their shoulders. Not quite as much as like baseball. That literally falls squarely on their shoulders. But it comes down to that. And look, we're not winning. And that's what it is. And most of you are like, really, the Cowboys? I'm like, yeah. I grew up with the Cowboys. It is what it is. I'm a Cowboys fan through and through. Sorry. Y'all Yankees fans. I'm not a fan of y'all either. But you grew up with them, and that's fine. You can, whatever. So, yeah, I'll just root for Texas Tech for a little while. Where's my Texas Tech logo?
It's on the other nipple.
There it is. Or for them, they're doing good, except they lost to, like, the worst Big 12 team the other day. They beat, like, number 5 and number 1, and then they lose to, like, nobody.
Who'd they play?
They beat Kansas, and then they beat Baylor, and then they lost against, I don't remember who it was. Iowa State, I think. It was bad. It was ugly.
Okay.
So, anyway,
we have a really cool episode today.
Yeah, and it has nothing to do with any of that. Which makes it good.
Even though the podcast is like today, what's today? Today is the 16th, January 16th. So the podcast is actually not coming out for like 2 weeks.
Sure.
But it's like serendipitous that it's today. Do you know why? I think I know something that you don't know.
Is today like an anniversary?
No.
Oh, well then I couldn't know.
Today is a very specific day. I'm going to ask
her. I do know. No, I do know.
Oh, hang on. Do you guys know what today is?
I know.
No,
I know.
Today is...
Wait, can I say it?
If you really know.
It's your wife's least favorite day of all days in the world.
Well, that is true. Okay. Today is my wife's least favorite day of the year.
Okay.
Well, it's her favorite day, and it's her least favorite day.
Is it because she gets a little bit of attention, or...
No. Okay, so what Kevin is alluding to is today is Ethel Merman's birthday, which is her least favorite... performer.
She just hates this person.
She hates Ethel Merman. But that actually was not what I was leading into.
Okay.
But it is funny, like on Ethel Merman's birthday, we just spam my wife's Facebook with pictures of Ethel Merman.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, she literally hates this person.
And Ethel Merman is in my favorite movie of all time, which, for those of you wondering, it's a mad world.
Yes, which is a great.
But today, and I don't think these days normally coincide, which I think was a weird thing for her. Today is Sanctity of Human Life Sunday.
Oh, I saw her post about something like that. Yeah, it's great. Fantastic.
Wow. So if you can read between the lines, We're going to be talking to some doulas and midwifery and all kinds of words that you and I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, and midwifery is my favorite word.
It's my new favorite word too.
It's not like I heard it last time we talked to Kristina here, but it's like, who gets to say a word like midwifery and it be right
in a sentence?
Yeah, like you say that is almost like, hey, something about I don't know, midwifery, and you're like, exactly.
Yes, that's the thing.
That's the thing. So yeah, back in the studio. I don't know. It's been a little while.
It has a little bit over a year.
Yeah, a little bit over a year. Okay, great. We have Kristina Tamez, and she is a doula and does midwifery. I don't know if I said that right. She's a midwifery.
She does midwifery?
She does midwifery. It's like what you do, like if you're a witch doctor, right?
A witch doctor.
Yeah.
No.
You do the witch doctory thing. She's a midwife and she does the midwifery,
No,
right?
Priscilla's the midwife.
Priscilla's the midwife.
Okay, we'll figure all that out. Either way,
we got to assign titles.
Kristina.
We need badges. That's what we need.
Yeah, we're gonna get this all wrong. Look, whenever you have conversations like this, you just have to like put it out there, right?
I completely understand.
We're all gonna be stupid for a little while.
Not all.
No, not
just
all of us.
The two
of
here.
us on this side. We're going to be stupid for a little while. Let y'all figure out why we're stupid. It's not going to take long. And all that. So, Kristina, tell it for those of you who may not have heard the last episode, shame on you. Go back and listen.
Yes.
Please tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Okay. My name is Kristina Tamez, and I'm a nurse by trade. I have turned doula, and doula is Greek, and it means woman servant. So that's what I do for a woman in labor. I serve her needs. I anticipate what she needs, and I'm there to serve her, to make her comfortable in the labor process.
Okay.
So that's what I do in this realm. I do that in the hospital. I do that in a birth center, or I can do that in a home setting.
Okay. All right. Great. And you brought a guest with you,
Yes.
but she's your employee. She works with you. She's your partner.
All
those things. You're a business partner. You're not an employee. You're a partner.
Right.
Right. You're the other half.
Demoted you. Look at that.
Look, I'm starting off early being stupid. The only thing I wasn't stupid about was Dak, okay? That was not stupid. That was smart.
Time will tell.
Yeah, no, the time was already told. Anyway, but Priscilla, welcome. We're glad you're here. Welcome to the Homeowners Studio. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into partnering here with Kristina.
Sure. So my name is Priscilla Brickey, and my background back 20 years ago started in massage.
Okay.
And I worked with women in pregnancy, worked at Women's Hospital of Texas. That turned into doula work. And as a doula, I decided to become a midwife. So it's trickled in over the years, but here I am. Finally, we have this awesome business, midwifery and doula services that we offer. So,
okay, great. So, along those lines, I mean, I'm sure that the road to being, a midwife is really, really long. I would assume, or maybe it's short. But how did you decide I want to do this?
Partly working in the hospitals as a doula.
Okay.
I just felt like there was a better calling for me. So, after. If you see the difference between a hospital birth and a home birth or even a birth center birth, it's night and day. And there's just something to be said about being home and laboring and having a baby and not having the sterile side of a hospital and all the interventions that go along with it and just letting our bodies labor naturally. It's just a better outcome. It's beautiful.
Wow. It's interesting because, Craig and I, we've been through this process before, having babies. Craig more than me, but
never had any myself.
No, well, that we know of.
I've been present for some.
Yeah. And, it was wonderful for us, but I don't think I really knew that doulas were a thing. I think I'd probably heard the word once or twice, and I've definitely heard the word midwife because that's a little bit more common. Why is it more common?
That's a great question. I
BBC.
don't know the answer.
Well, so
isn't
the midwife.
Isn't that the network that has the show? They call the midwife?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Is that the one?
Yes.
So
right.
A midwife replaces
I know some
your
things.
OB. Yeah, no, you're right.
Yes.
But that's the difference. Is a midwife replaces the OB. That's the you're either going to be with a OB in the hospital or a midwife. And some midwives work in the hospital or at home or a birth center.
Okay.
A doula is more of a support. So
Okay. So a midwife is actually going to help deliver.
Yes.
And like I think that probably where because I grew up watching old TV shows, like the Andy Griffith Show and Green Acres and
Yeah.
Petticoat Junction,
Yeah.
like some of these
Yeah,
old
I did too.
shows, right? And every once in a while, they would just, they had an episode about so and so who gave birth, and the midwife would come.
Right.
And I think that's probably where I heard it more than anything because. And it is kind of like you said, it's the one who actually came to do the procedure,
Right.
whatever, the giving birth process.
Yes.
And so that's a little bit different than the doula, which is giving the support.
Correct.
labor support.
Correct.
Okay.
So back in the day, in those, we're talking early 19th century, it was a woman's event to have birth. And typically the men were still at work or they were in another room.
Okay.
So the birthing woman is surrounded by either her mother, her sister, her aunt. It's a woman thing. Like one's getting warm towels, another is rubbing her back, another is helping her get off the bed. She wants to stoop or she wants to get from a squat position into the bed. It's about a women event.
Okay.
Women supporting women. And it wasn't until the hospital births started getting traction because of penicillin that they invited men to go in. And even at that, they weren't allowed in the labor room. I'm 52. My dad was not allowed in the labor room.
Wow.
He was in the waiting room. And they came out, the nurse came out and said, "It's a girl." And, he got all teary and, all nervous. He was there with my uncle and he said, "Quick." He handed my uncle a bunch of quarters and said, "Go call everybody."
Oh, wow.
So, it was payphone time.
Wow.
So, I'm happy men are in the room, in the hospital room. I'm happy they're there. But at the same time, they're not always as educated as they need to be
Shocker.
or equipped.
Yeah.
They may have read all the books, but they're not equipped. And that's where the doula comes in.
And that's a huge thing because I think, I know whenever we had our first child, it was like, you need to go to the birthing class.
Yes.
And it's kind of not a requirement, but it was highly,
Sure.
encouraged. And,
Yes.
and I went. I think a lot of men are just uncomfortable
Sure.
with the terms,
Yes.
with the body parts,
Yes.
with the things that are happening.
Yes.
And I think that's why they were always like, "Go get the boiling water," because it took a while. I don't know, get you away from here. I don't know, like
Keeps you occupied.
keeps you occupied, right? But I do think it's important because, and not to get too off topic here, but I think that, especially with the whole sanctity of life thing and everything, Craig and I are definitely huge supporters of family.
Yes.
In general.
Yes.
And in today's world, it's just a different. There's a lot more people that don't have a family around them when they're giving birth.
Correct.
And we love that the more you can involve family in every aspect, I think is healthy. And so I really love that. So I guess do this. Tell us a little bit about what is that process? Like, how do you educate the husbands or the men, even if they're not husbands? How do you kind of go through that process with them?
I'll let you, Priscilla.
Well, it starts in the childbirth class
Okay.
that we teach. And we had, 9 dads with us tonight.
Yes.
So it's a couples class. And we give him the words as well as the hands-on tools on what to do. And some dads, that's a big deal. When they reach out for doula services, they say, what goal or what role is my husband going to have in this? And it's whatever he wants. What do you see? What is your birth plan? What do you want him to do? What have y'all talked about? And a lot of the dads, they want to go in full force and they want to do everything. We teach them everything that we know. And we get there and they're like a deer in headlights and they're like, "I'm so glad you're here." So, but some dads, they do it all. Some do. They want to do it all and we're wiping their foreheads, whatever they need. making sure they're resting or getting something to eat. So we really are support for both mom and dad, but giving the dad the tools to help mom in early labor is really important, and it just gives them more confidence. And I think the mamas, they love it. I mean, they're like, yeah, tell them more, tell them to do more, say it again. What do you say? I love you.
Yeah.
You're doing perfect.
You're so strong. I'm so
yeah.
proud of you.
Yeah.
A lot of dads get really nervous when mom gets a little vocal, when she's grunting and making primal noises. So we try to get that on the front end and tell dad, it's going to be noisy.
Yeah.
It's going to be noisy. It's going to sound scary. She may even say a few curse words. So we're going to give her grace and we're going to apply it. I always tell them in class, it's kind of like when you go to Vegas. When you go to Vegas, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
Yeah.
What happens in the labor room stays in the labor room. If mama needs to say some bad words and hit a pillow, then we're going to let her.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that, because I think that this is one of, because I on occasion wind up talking with married couples for various reasons, and one of the things I tell them is like, look, the time right after you have a child is one of the most stressful, most confusing, most tiring things that you've ever done. And what's going to happen is you're going to wind up having moments where you go, I didn't know that I married that person. Yeah. And if I did, I would never have married that person. It's like, okay, well, you need to be a little more confident in yourself, and you need to be a little more graceful to that person, because the reality of it is you're more exhausted than you've ever been in your life. Things are changing. You've got a whole new life stage that you've entered into, and it's very different. And so you didn't marry that person, you married the person that and you probably just need a nap.
Yes.
And she probably just needs a nap.
Right.
Yes.
And so I think what you're talking about there is really, really helpful, because there's some of this education on the front end that I think if you can have, it really does. And you mentioned a birth plan. I want to dig into that just a little bit more in a moment, but let me ask you this, because you said that you do birthing classes, all right? What is different, if anything, about your birthing class than the one that, like, say, the hospital offers? Because we went free of charge. We didn't have to pay. And I don't know if y'all charge for that or if it's just included in your services if you hire you as a doula. But what makes that different?
Well, first of all, we don't have many classes. We have one.
Okay.
So a lot of dads like that. It's not subsequent weeks in a row. It's not 9 weeks, 12 weeks, because I used to teach those classes in the hospital. There is no hospital tour with our class. So it's a one-day class. It's usually 4 hours long, 3 or 4 hours. We can also do it privately, but we do offer it every other month in person, right here in Conroe. What makes it different, in addition to that, is that we're teaching a little bit of anatomy and physiology. So we're making sure everyone's on the same page. Like, where's the baby even in the body? Baby's in the uterus. Yeah. Where is the vagina? Yes, you have 3 holes. And so, we go from the very basic. Then we go into stages of labor. And most moms are somewhat familiar. They've all read some of those books. But we like to go over that again. And then we like to pinpoint about what's happening in that stage of labor to mom, and what is dad or doula doing in response to that. So it's like this horizontal checklist of what's going on in the room.
Okay.
And the closer we get to delivery, those time frames get shorter, but the pain is more intense. So our role as doula becomes far more interactive with mom than in the very beginning when, she's only been in labor like 6 hours. So we like to arrive when she's in active labor, and we like to labor mamas at home. So that is one thing that makes us different from other doulas as well, is that most doulas will only take care of you between 37 weeks and 41. We take care of you the moment you call. So if you just peed on the stick and it's positive and you want to hire a doula, we can be yours. Okay. And you get more bang for your buck if you hire us early, because we're available via text the entire time. 24/7, Sunday afternoon, same price. Okay. Sunday afternoon, 2 a.m, we're yours. We are your Google. We are it. So when it comes time for us to be there with you in labor, we like to go to your house, start out labor there, and then we can make decisions when it's time to go, and we go together.
That's huge.
It's really big.
Yeah, because I don't know, Craig, I don't know, your experience is obviously going to vary from mine, but I remember whenever my daughter was born, we scheduled it. It was, my wife was induced. Now it's really interesting because she would say she wishes she didn't do that.
A lot of women regret that.
Yeah, and it was because it was just a different experience.
Yeah.
And she and again for her it was, I mean, you have to know my wife, she's very like plan things out. She needs to know all why this is happening, when, and all the things. So a birthing plan would have been really, really helpful for her. Mm-hmm. But that's why she did it. Because she needed to know, like, if it's not already happened, that it's going to happen and everything's going to be fine. I've got it planned out. She had it under control, right? With my son, my second child, whenever he was born, I was asleep. It was Christmas Eve, and I was asleep. And she woke me up about 3 o'clock in the morning, and she said, "Hey, babe, it's time to go to the hospital." And I said, "Okay. Why?" And she goes, "Well, I haven't been asleep yet, and my contractions are about 8 minutes apart right now, and that means it's time to go to the hospital." And I said, okay. It's okay. It's 3 in the morning. Okay, it's Christmas Eve.
It's fine. Everything's fine.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, okay.
Deer in headlights. Here we go.
I'm so glad that we had a little bit of a plan because we had someone to call to come take care of our daughter. She was down the road, and she answered her phone at 3 o'clock in the morning, which was huge.
Yes.
Ginger, one of my favorite people in the world because of that. And we left. One of my favorite stories to tell of all time is that it's 3 o'clock in the morning and there's nobody out, right? Everybody's asleep. Everybody's at home. And I am speeding through the neighborhood and down the access road to get to where we're going. And my wife's like, "It's fine. We're not even that far away from the hospital." And I'm like, "Leave me alone. Yeah. I get one opportunity to speed and do this. Like, it's my only chance to do this legally, blah, 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 blah."
Yeah.
And she was like, "Okay, fine." So I was like, "Let me have my moment here for just a minute." And
I do tell all my dads when I'm behind them, there's no need to speed.
Yeah, I know.
But drive with your flashers, and we're going to get mom there safely, okay?
Yeah. Oh, no, that's the other thing, though. It's like, look, who am I going to run into? There's no one. Anyway.
Santa Claus.
Yeah, I guess Santa Claus was on his way. But I do think that a birthing plan is super important for lots of those reasons.
Yes.
So I do want to dig into that for a minute. Talk to us about that.
That is part of the class as well.
Okay.
So everyone's on the same page about anatomy and physiology, what the stages of labor are, when we arrive, what's going to happen when we get there. And then we have the birth plan, and then either we go to the hospital if it's a hospital birth, or we go to the birth center if it's a birth center birth. If it's happening at home, then we just stay right there. And when it gets closer to the end of labor, then the doula will call the midwife to come in, and she brings all of the equiment to you, which is super nice.
You're already ready. Like all of these things have been planned. So there's a lot of the things that you're going to be unsure about, you've already kind of worked through a little bit.
So dad has the opportunity to ask questions like, where do I stand? Who's taking pictures? The doula. Mm-hmm. So dad can be in the picture.
Okay. So
it gives them a lot less anxiety going in. They know what to expect. They know we're going to answer on the very first text. Priscilla, our phones do not turn off. Mm-hmm. We answer within the minute.
Wow.
Around the clock.
Wow.
And it gives everyone lots of calm.
Sure.
Well, that's something that even doctors' offices don't offer.
They do not.
We get a lot of complaints from our clients. They say, "I've left several messages. No one calls me back. Everything's through a portal. You can't get a person on the phone."
Right.
And they love that they can text us, get on a Zoom call or a phone call, and we're there for them. within the minute.
Just the ability to communicate with somebody is extremely valuable.
Yes.
I would imagine.
Yes. Sometimes it's not contractions. It's they think they have a UTI. Sometimes babies are sitting real low and they're having round ligament pain. They don't know they're having round ligament pain, but they're having pain. So once we ask a certain questions, so there is no need to Google it.
Yeah.
We are the Google.
Or rush to the ER.
Right. Right.
So I know UTI. What's round ligament pain? That one's the one I've not heard before. What is that?
Go ahead, Priscilla.
So it's a ligament. It attaches to the uterus. You
Okay.
have a broad ligament and a round ligament, and they tend to get overstretched as the uterus grows.
Okay.
And depending on the baby's position, it's a sharp pain, and it feels like a possible contraction. They're confused. They don't know what they're feeling. They just know they have pain.
Okay.
But it's very common in
So
pregnancy.
for the moms out there, because Kevin and I have no idea what this is, like what would they be experiencing that? Could they tell the difference between a contraction and that, or would
Sometimes no.
Sometimes no. Okay.
Because they'll say it feels like a period cramp. Okay, well that sounds like a contraction, not a ligament pain. Or it's when I start my cycle, it's right where the ovaries are. Okay, well that sounds like ligament. So it's troubleshooting, a lot of troubleshooting.
So it's just kind of it's having someone to talk to,
Sure.
Yes.
and
To
ask
figure it out.
and kind of whittle it down and go, okay, what exactly are we dealing with?
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, we had a client not long ago. She woke us up in the middle of the night, a little early for a home birth. It was 36 weeks. By law, we cannot do a home birth unless you're 37 to 42 weeks.
Oh.
And so she texted, it was, I don't know, she was maybe 35 weeks, 36, having pain. And so I was like, So I went to her house, evaluated her, figured it out that it was round ligament pain, and showed her how to wear a support belt. And ever since then, she's had no pain.
Interesting.
I mean, that is unbelievable.
I know.
Like, y'all.
I know.
I mean, because here's the other thing is 37 weeks, it's early. And even though it's not too early,
Yeah.
it's early.
Yeah.
Right? And every moment, I mean, and there comes a point where it's not healthy, but every moment that baby can get the nutrients and the nourishment that your mama
every
is
24
giving
hours, baby's
is
growing.
huge, right?
Yes.
And so, 3 weeks
Yeah.
is a lot of time. And so you just saved that person not only a lot of stress, because that's the main thing probably, but you also probably saved her a trip to the hospital.
Yes.
And who knows who she's going to get whenever she sees, the hospital. Who knows if she's going to find who she needs. They can tell her all sorts of things. Right. And not only that, there's this whole trust factor
Yes.
that you've been building this entire time.
Exactly.
I just see so much value in this, and it makes me wish that I had known about this service whenever I was younger and had my children. It would have been probably a different story.
Me too. I mean, my training is in labor and delivery. So I had my first kid at 25. No such word as doula ever spoken at Women's Hospital.
Right.
But now it's norm. Now it's norm.
Well, that's pretty big too. Like the fact
It
that
is.
it's actually a normal thing.
It is normal.
know?
What do you guys think has been the shift in either like our family culture or like our mom culture that has made that more mainstream for everybody?
I do think that we need more education about it because during the peak of COVID, mothers wanted their mother there and the doula. So we would birth labor mamas at home, and then their mother would go in pretending to be the doula.
Oh.
So that gave us a really bad rap in COVID time.
Well, because I think a lot of mothers are hyper.
Correct.
Right.
And they really don't know what they're doing.
And I don't mean like
Yeah.
off the wall hyper.
Yeah.
I mean they're just extra.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure I'm clear what we're talking about.
Exactly.
We're talking about the moms of the mom that's having the baby.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Grandma wanted to be there because that was the plan, and then COVID hit, and they weren't able to. So I still think there needs to be far more education. It's not just a person who wants to be in the room. You cannot just call yourself a doula. So that I think there still needs to be a lot more education about it. But I think what's happened is moms, the pregnant mama, is starting to realize I cannot leave this in someone else's hands that is not a professional. They're understanding through their friends that have had kids or, bad stories that they read about that the nurses are not really in the room 24/7.
Right.
They are charting and they're overworked and they're taking care of other clients too.
Especially over the last 2 years.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So they are realizing, I love you, my dear husband, but this is not your specialty, and I need someone dedicated to me.
Yeah, because again, this is, even though this is a pretty normal process, and when I say that way, I only say it that way because
it's birth.
It's a huge deal.
It is.
But a lot of women experience it.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And as far as that goes, it is normal, but it's only something that you do a couple of times, 3 times. I mean, some people a lot more than that, but it's still rare in your life.
Yes.
And so you don't know. It's not just like something that you do. It's not like riding a bike.
Right.
Not to mention the fact that number 2 is going to be different than number 1.
Yes.
It's going to feel different. It's going to act different. It's going to be different. It's
And
going to
number
deliver
3 is the
different.
wild card.
Yeah.
Just saying. Number 3 is the wild.
Yes.
I know.
Yes.
Because I have 4. I know. 3 is a wild card.
You never know, right?
From
true.
then and now evermore.
That's true. It's very true.
Some things will never change with number 3.
Yes. My number 3 is going to be 22, and he is still a wild card.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so you mentioned the buzzword. Okay, so let's get into it for a moment. How has COVID changed things for you, and Priscilla, you as well? How has that changed your services, and has it made it intensify? Has it, just kind of give me the 1,000-foot view of what that looks like, how COVID has really changed things for y'all?
So in midwifery, there has been, and I think it goes back to a question we had a second ago. I believe it's growing, home birth, birth center births, because of the policies in the hospital not letting a second person and a support person, only letting dad in. So the women were fearful that the next step was to not let the dad in. So we had a lot of late transfers for home birth. Mm-hmm. So in a way, it's good for midwifery. As far as doula services, we used to charge extra to labor women at home. But with COVID, when they weren't letting us in, that we just decided we're just going to go to their homes and labor them at home. And if it has to go to Zoom after that, it will. So at least we were still getting in person, hands-on with our clients before they went. And basically, the dads were our hands, and we would just tell them everything to do.
So you were actually doing this via Zoom for a few patients?
Yes.
Jeez.
Yes.
Wow. So
Yes.
tell me, what was that like?
It's a little crazy. I did once, I was in the parking lot of a hospital. They wouldn't let me in, so I sat in the parking lot and Zoomed for that.
Wow.
So it's.
I had my kids over one night, and I live in a 2-bedroom apartment, and they were all, spread out in the living room, and 2 were in another room, and had 2 in my bed. So I went to the bathroom. That was my only private space.
Yeah.
I sat in the bathroom floor and held the phone, and I'm
my
like,
gosh.
okay, Dad, can you move the blanket so I can see her face a little better? Now lean over the bed. As long as they can hear our voice and we can see them, it works. But because Priscilla and I want to be there, we want to put our hands on the client. We want to bring the anxiety down in the room just by our presence. That was super hard as a provider on the other side of a screen. It was
I can't
super
imagine.
hard. We can't use our essential oils. We can't use our hand technique. It worked, but it was so hard emotionally on us because we want to be there.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess the other side of that, the other question I want to ask is, do y'all work in tandem with a lot of patients? I mean, especially with like the home births, are y'all both there? Because again, you're telling me that the midwifery and the doula services are very different.
They are.
So, I mean, one's literally delivery and one's literally the care surrounding the delivery. So do y'all do that together?
The doula, we do 12-hour shifts. Before labor, we are on a 3-way text, so we're constantly in communication with our clients from the very beginning. During labor, one of us will show up and spend 12 hours, and then we'll swap. If they hire us for midwifery and doula services, then we're both there at the same time.
Okay. Oh, okay. So that makes a lot of sense to me because these are different services.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
But they go hand in glove.
Yes.
As long as you want that service.
Could y'all just take a couple minutes and kind of break down the differences for those that are listening? Like, what's the difference between like a doula and a midwife?
So a doula is support and advocacy. So we are giving you the words, we're educating you, and then midwifery. It's more, like I said, we're somewhat equal to an OBGYN. We don't do surgery, but we do all your prenatals, your labs. We labor with you as well. We're there for the birth, for the delivery. We're there. We stay up to 2 hours after the birth. We come back at 24 hours, at 2 weeks, and then 4 weeks later. So we're there also. It's baby care too. It's infant care. So
That's interesting.
Yeah. So it's a big span of time. So it's all your prenatals again. Where doula, it's more, they reach out when they have questions or concerns. We check in with them on a weekly basis. How's your prenatals? How's your doctor's appointment going? That kind of scenario with doula support. But midwifery, there's definitely more patient care.
So do you actually, as a midwife, do you actually do the delivery? Mm-hmm. Okay, so I guess the next question is, do you replace an OBGYN?
If they don't need surgery.
Okay, so
basically, if there's a C-section needed,
we go to the hospital.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me ask again, 1,000-foot view here.
Love it. Yes.
My wife and we're not having any more kids. That's physically impossible at this point. But let's.
I have a couple comments, but
no, there will be questions asked if we have more kids. But let's say that we hire both of you. Okay, so you're now our team.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, and that's actually a pretty good question, then, Kev. I mean, like,
Thanks.
Because like you say, we hire both of you. I mean, like when we engage with you guys' services, do we get both of you?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, no matter what.
Correct.
No matter what, whether it's doula, you're going to get us both. Whether it's midwifery, chances are you'll get us both because Kristina will come and assist at the birth. But
the services are different.
A little bit. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
is that normal?
Yes.
I mean, I'm not just talking about for you guys. I'm like in general.
No, in general. So a midwife, if you think about what an OB does, when your wife goes to her well woman exam every year, she gets a pap smear, she gets a breast exam, she may get some labs drawn, and some checks off on documentation saying I'll see you in a year. Mm-hmm. At 35 years old, you need to go for your first mammogram, all that. A midwife can do all of that.
Okay.
She can see you all the way until the end.
Interesting.
Past menopause.
Okay.
Okay. She does most of her work. Most midwives go into your home. Some have an office, and you go, just like you would go to a doctor's office, you go to a midwife office. Mm-hmm. But if it's in your home, it's so much calmer. It's your own bed. She brings all the equipment. Everything's there. If you need a sonogram, she's going to send it out. Write a script for it. If you need birth control, she can write a script for that. If you need antibiotics because you have a UTI, she can write a script for that.
Oh, wow.
So if you need stitches because you tore when you had the baby, she can sew that up. She can take care of everything woman.
See, that's really good because, okay, so I guess kind of back to my original question, do you recommend having an OBGYN, or do you just recommend, look, if you have to have a C-section, for example, the ER is going to be able to do that, and because I would think that on some level there is going to be some anxiety around not having someone that they've prepared to do that, and just say, well, anybody can do a C-section, But what have you, I guess, recommended normally?
So we've had to transfer before, and it's not life-threatening, but maybe failure to progress. We're just not getting anywhere. We need to go to the hospital for some Pitocin. Or, something's happened in the pregnancy, and now we need to transfer care. Mm-hmm. So that is something we do. I mean, we have our networking group. We know we can call on a specific doctor in their area and refer.
Okay, I assume at this point you've already gone through, this is the insurance that you have. We know that we partner with these doctors. Mm-hmm. That's already part of the conversation that you've already had
Right.
It's part of your birthing plan, I would assume.
We already know what's the nearest hospital. Those are part of the things that we go through in the initial consult. So
some people say, I want a midwife to come to my home, and they say, I really don't think I need a doula. Mm-hmm. It's not required. You don't have to have a doula. So, but we are a midwife doula team. Most midwives have a midwife practice, and they see clients. They have regular gynecological clients, and then they have regular OB clients, and they see clients all day, just like a doctor would. And then some clients say, I think I need more support. So they ask for a doula. They ask the midwife, who do you suggest? They're like, oh, well, here's a doula group you can find. Go to Doula Match or whatever. But we are a team.
Okay.
So she's not going to recommend another doula to another client. She's going to recommend me, and we come as a team. If the client says, I don't think I need a doula, I just want the midwife service, then I would come and serve as a second pair of hands at the birth, just to take care of baby.
Sure. Because it's just necessary for that, right?
Many hands make light work.
Well, you just need backup. And most midwives will call a backup midwife when it's getting time for the birth.
Okay. Well, and look, again, going back to one of the reasons my wife regrets doing the induction is because I don't know that you're going to know the term better than me, but she had to be clipped in order for the baby to come out, and she feels very strongly that if she would have had birth naturally without the Pitocin, that she probably wouldn't have had that issue. Now, that's her own thought process. Who knows, right? But in that situation, she had to have stitches.
Right.
And that's one of those things that a midwife can figure out. She can do. All of those sorts of things is what I'm hearing you say. Yes. That's not something that a special, like going back to the old, Bill Cosby thing, like get the salad tongs, right? We had to use the salad tongs on my daughter as well. And so, but that's just all stuff that a midwife would understand, would know, would work with. And that's.
And it's pretty amazing. Most home births do not have tears.
Yeah, and again, I think that there's something to be said about the stress level. There's something to be said about the, you're not being induced typically, right? Because you're not doing Pitocin at that point.
Right, we're not allowed to.
Right, you're not allowed to.
We can't induce. So it's natural. And you have to qualify for a home birth. You have to be healthy. There can't be complications.
And that's something that you would tell them.
There's no,
right?
You can't have risks.
Right. Yeah, and so it is, again, my wife is probably not unfounded in thinking that that's the reason she really regrets it. I hope I'm not sharing too much. She doesn't listen to this. It's fine.
Even if you are, she'll never know.
Right, she'll never know. But it's an experience that I had too. I was there.
Sure.
I was there when it happened.
Sure.
I was there whenever the doctor said, "Hey, we're gonna have to do this," and she was like, "Okay, I guess so." What do you do in that moment? Yeah. And here's part of the problem. We see the doctor when she tells us, "Come see me," and we go, we sit in a waiting room for however long, and we wait, and then we go into the physical room that we're, the exam room, and we sit there until she decides to show up. And we loved our person; she was wonderful, our doctor. But I mean, those could take a long time.
Yep.
And you're telling me you would come to my house to do that on my time when it's convenient? And again, it's just more things you have to, look, this is one of the most exciting times of a person's life most of the time, right? Not always, but one of the most exciting times. But it's something you just don't understand. You don't know all the things. And now I'm having to go I'm sitting in a waiting room. Everybody's looking at me. It's like, you're more fat than me. All these things. It's like, how far along are you? It's like, it's like this weird conversation stuff that happens that I can just bypass. Yeah. And I can do it on my time, in my way, because it is a private thing, right? I don't know, man. I look back and I go, I think that there is so much value in what y'all are providing.
Thank you.
And I hope that other people listening to this are feeling the same way as me. I don't know, Craig. How would you have? I mean,
I never feel like you.
Well, that's true. That's a whole other. There's
Can't set me up like that.
Oh man, I'm thinking of an animated TV show at the Beavis and Butthead episode right now. where Beavis says, "Oh yeah, how do you feel about my mom?" And she's like, well, "That's not how I feel about your mom." And he starts making these hand movements. Anyway, it's pretty funny. But anyway, how do you? I mean, if you knowing now after having talking with Priscilla and Kristina, do you think y'all would have changed anything?
Well, so yes, maybe because, and this is actually a good segue for me, because you mentioned a minute ago that like if it's high risk, like you guys can't. There's some things that you guys can't do, and I think you mentioned a while ago that like legally you can't do some things, and so I'm curious as to like what the regulatory board over that, because like so we've had 3 kids, all 3 of them have been high risk pregnancies, and so like I know that there's like a different procedure around those kinds of things. So I'm actually curious like how you guys would manage something like that.
We would transfer care
If
they're not
immediately.
And we would set them up with the right provider.
And so like just so people know, like what are like categories of like what you guys would consider, like, not what you guys would consider, what they tell you are high risk.
Diabetes.
Okay.
Hypertension. Preeclampsia. Placenta previa.
What, I don't even know. It's like some of those I know what they are, but like the last one particularly, I don't even know what that is.
Previa, when the placenta covers the cervix.
Okay. All right.
He still doesn't know.
I still don't know.
If you think about,
I know that those are words.
I need a model.
If you think about the tree, the roots of the tree is what we would consider the placenta.
Okay.
So you cannot have the roots come out before the baby.
Okay.
So it's in front of the door. Well, you can't get the baby out. It has to be born by C-section.
Okay. That was my next question, is like preeclampsia, that makes it C-section.
Preeclampsia is a liver condition that the body is actually rejecting the pregnancy. So they have high blood pressure. They start putting urine. Their urine output has a lot of protein in it. It's not supposed to.
Okay.
And they have visual disturbances, lots of headaches, but the blood pressure is uncontrollable. The only way to fix it is to get the baby out, and her blood pressure issue goes away. The urine problem goes away. The liver problem goes away.
Interesting.
So do any issues with like baby like exclude you guys from providing any kind of care?
I mean, if they find something in the ultrasound that's not considered normal, then we would definitely
so
not
anything
have
like
heart condition.
like especially like I remember specifically whenever we were at a certain point, we had basically declined I don't know what it's called, whenever the test that test for abnormalities and
Genetic or amniocentesis.
One of those, I think it was the second one, amniocentesis. Did I say that right?
Sure did. Sure did.
Way to go, Kev.
Yeah.
It's where they put a very large needle inside the uterus and extract some of the...
That's one. Yeah, and we declined.
Because there's risk involved with
there
that.
Is.
There is.
Yeah. There is.
There's
We
a lot of
declined
risk.
that for that reason. And so then my daughter wound up having, they found some holes in her head that were abnormal. And they said, we now think that we need to do this. And so we agreed at that point. And everything wound up being fine. The holes healed up like they should have, and everything was fine eventually. But if they would have found something on that test, if we didn't decline it, and they would have found something on that test, I would assume at that point you're going, I unfortunately cannot help you anymore.
Correct.
If that happens, and I've already paid you, what happens then?
So there in the contract, there is a space to receive your money back minus anything I've done. So prenatal visits, I would deduct, labs I would deduct, but that's it.
I'm
Be prorated.
Yeah.
no, I think that's a great thing to know. Like, what happens if I hire you and then I can't use your services to actually do what you said you were going to do? That's great to know. In the contract, there's a way out.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So do some of those issues prevent you guys from being in the delivery room?
Well, I mean, as a midwife, we're going to basically
Transfer service.
Well, we would be their support. So we would go with them to the hospital. Now, if they're having surgery, they won't let us back in. They're only going to allow dad. or one person.
Yeah.
So,
Which there's really no need for more than
Right.
one person.
Yeah,
You're
right,
out.
right.
but you may just transfer because failure to progress and you need some Pitocin. So we'll be in the room with you. It doesn't mean just because you transfer doesn't mean you're getting a C-section.
And at that point, it's like your doula services are still hugely important.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Now, if you transfer in labor, then there's no refund. We've been
Right.
with you for months.
Yeah.
I've labored
can't
with you.
control
We've been
that.
at home. I
Right,
can't
yeah.
help what's happened at home. Right.
You're
But we
at
will
the
go
end
with
line.
you. Yeah, we're here. We for safety reasons, we're going to the hospital. I'm going to stay with you.
Yeah.
Well, and I would think at that point, someone's going, look, I would imagine there's very few people that was like, you didn't actually help me.
Right,
Because
right,
you obviously are
right.
still very involved.
Yes.
There's still a lot that you're doing.
Yes.
And by the way, there's a lot of post pregnancy stuff that y'all
Sure.
work through as well.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes, definitely.
Right. So let's talk about post pregnancy stuff because we haven't really even gotten into that, except saying that as a midwife you would go back and see them. What are those time frames again? 2 weeks and
So 24 hours.
okay, 24 hours.
Right. And 2 weeks and then
Okay.
4 weeks later.
Okay. So
We need to talk about that because I have crazy pregnancy stories that I can only share off the air.
okay.
So,
Yes. But
you know some
I
of
know
them.
some of them, and they're interesting. But that being said, let's talk about some of the other services that you offer because I'll tell you right now, nurses are phenomenal. You were a nurse.
I still am.
You still are a nurse.
I still have my
and,
license.
and you know that they really they're wonderful. We were so thankful for our nurses. They did a great job.
Yeah.
See how nice he's
But-
being sitting next to her?
But yeah, right. But here's the problem. I remember when the doctors came in and they were like, "Look, your daughter is jaundice a little bit. We're gonna need to keep her an extra day." And they were kind of like, "It's gonna be okay." And I was like, "Sweet, okay, another day. Like, all right, let's order another round of food, right?" You're gonna take care of her. You're doing a great job taking care of her because I knew it was gonna happen
Yeah.
the moment that they let us go.
Yeah. She's
We were-
yours.
we were done. And all of the help with
Supposed to act like I
breastfeeding-
know stuff.
Right. It was like, who taught this kid to breastfeed?
Yeah.
Nobody.
Yeah.
Someone's got to teach this kid to breastfeed. They don't come out knowing that. It's not like a baby giraffe that eventually stands up and it's like they know what they're doing. No, nobody teaches that other than a nurse if you're at the hospital or a doula. Right?
Yes.
Because there's services that are offered post-pregnancy
Yes.
that you come to the house for, right?
Yes.
So can you explain some of those and what that because that is an extra charge, I know, for some
So-
of it. I know there's some that's included, but there's some that's extra.
yeah.
Let's just talk through some of those services that you offer.
And I'm sorry, why is the breastfeeding person at the hospital always a dude?
Oh, ours wasn't.
Ours
I've
was.
never seen a
that-
dude.
that's-
Yes.
That's
Really?
not right.
Strange.
Yes.
What hospital?
I don't want to get into a
Did-
defamation
did-
case.
Did
Well, that's not right. I mean, they're over there like grabbing things and like touching
I have
things.
never
Like-
seen one. Did he have a badge?
Yeah. This is actually a bit that they do. What is that show? Scrubs.
Oh yes.
On Scrubs, they do a bit about the breastfeeding guy being a guy and like. Yeah.
I have been doing this since
No, it's-
1993.
it's-
I've never seen
It's
one.
not Scrubs. It's The Office. Did you guys see the episode when Jim and Pam have their baby?
Oh yes.
And the breastfeeding guy is a
As a
guy.
dude.
Oh, I remember
And
that
he's
one.
like, "What? Why are you?"
But that's a show. That's not real life.
That is, but like ours, one
but
of ours
it
was a
happened.
guy.
Oh, you really?
Yes,
That's
I,
it was kind of weird.
that's super awkward.
So,
It's like you're gonna
never
do
seen
do
that.
what with her? What? Okay. All right. I guess like I would ask.
Well, and I can't. The reason I'm not answering, I can't remember because we had kids in 2 different hospitals here, and I can't remember which one it was.
I have never seen a male lactation consultant.
That's
Wow.
the word. That's the one I
Lactation
was.
consultant. Okay, so
Never.
let's talk about lactation for a minute.
Okay.
Tell
Okay.
us about how
Okay.
that works and what
Okay.
you do. And I know there's other services you offer
sure.
because look, here's the problem. There's this really real thing that happens with a lot of women, and it is not abnormal for you to be depressed afterwards
Right.
and to have problems about feeling like all of a sudden I don't have this baby inside of me, for 9 months, right? And there, this postpartum problem stuff happens, and it's normal.
Yes.
You don't have to feel weird about that, but you offer some of those services because I remember, because I was here for the first episode. If you haven't listened to the first episode, please go listen to it. It was one of those. We didn't figure out which one it was. We have some friends who they're like, remember on episode number blah, 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 when we said this?
You have people do that to you too?
Yeah, I don't know what the numbers are. It was number, I don't know. I don't know which one it was, but it was one of those episodes where you came on, did a fantastic job. But let's reiterate them. Let's talk about them.
So our package, our doula package, if you hire us as a doula, we run 12-hour shifts. We labor you at home. The childbirth class is included. We stay with you for up to 2 hours after the birth, whether it's at home or a hospital or a birth center, and we take the photos and all that. And we're also qualified to teach breastfeeding. So we have our own baby dolls. We bring our own little baby dolls and our own knitted boob, and we mock. We want the mom to model, or we model, and they mimic.
Okay.
So they mimic what we do, and we say, hold your boob here, hold the baby here, we get the baby on. And then once baby's latched, and we talk about how often you need to do this, for how long, on each side. These are the cues you're looking for, what dad can do to help with pillows and holding baby's hands out of the way. And then we part ways. So we're on call for that mom for 2 weeks after birth. So via text or phone calls, and then we make an in-person home visit for 1 hour. And that is when we reevaluate breastfeeding. We talk about how to pump, how to store your milk, when to introduce a bottle, swaddle techniques, all that kind of stuff. And we make an evaluation regarding her emotions at that point too.
Look, y'all, again, I say this all the time to young couples when I'm like, unfortunately, there is no manual that leaves the hospital with you, and you have to just kind of figure it out on your own. And I'll tell you, that is probably one of the most intimidating, one of the most... I'm a pretty non-stressful type of person. I don't get hyper about a lot of things. I'm just pretty even keel. The Kevin you get today is the Kevin you're going to get tomorrow, for the most part, unless Dak Prescott's involved. And
Or the Cowboys.
the Cowboy, yeah. I get, but here's the thing: when you get home with something that you don't, she's crying,
Yeah.
and you don't know why. Yeah. And you're crying, and you don't know why, and your wife, and it's really worse when your wife's crying and you don't know why.
Sure.
Like, I'm almost getting a little emotional about it right now.
Sure.
And because I remember those moments.
Because you want to fix it.
I want to fix it as a dude. I want to fix it, and I want to figure it out.
We tell all of our dads in the class, your job is not to fix it. Your job is to be.
Yeah, and honestly, that's hard.
It is hard.
Because I want to be what she needs me to be, and she can't tell me what she needs me to be. No. And so that's all very, very difficult. So I think that the fact that you are literally coming to my house afterward,
yes,
is huge. And you're not my mother-in-law.
No.
Because I love my mother-in-law. My mother-in-law, if she's listening right now, I love you. And I really, really love my mother-in-law.
She does listen more than your wife.
There's no doubt about that. She's wonderful.
Yeah.
And my mom's wonderful. But at some point, it's like...
It's a professional coming to your home.
It is. It's different.
It is different.
It's just different.
There's no emotional baggage associated with us. Mm-hmm. So that is the role that we play as a doula. Now, if you hire Priscilla as your midwife and me as your doula, then she's going to come see you 24 hours after, check on you and baby, and then do it again at 2 weeks and again at 4 weeks. And I'm going to come about the 10-day or so, and then my services are over. So I do everything pregnancy and delivery and 2 weeks after, and I'm done. Priscilla can continue to see this mama until she's 80. Mm-hmm. Okay, so it's a great continuity of care.
Wow. Yeah, okay, so here's the other thing that just popped into my mind. So even if you have insurance, you're going to pay copays. You're going to have out-of-pocket expenses. There's going to be stuff that happens, right? And so I'm assuming that on some level, when you start factoring in a bunch of those things, it's probably not all that different with price points. I mean, y'all are reasonable. You told me what they were last time, but
it's actually cheaper. It's
Yeah,
cheaper.
a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
see, that's silly, y'all.
No,
That's
it's
silly.
So if you were to go to the hospital and pay for a vaginal birth without insurance, it'd cost you about $4,000.
Okay. I don't really have $4,000
That's
today.
the hospital.
Okay.
That's the hospital fee.
Yeah, because
but
there's
if
a
you
lot
use your
more.
insurance, it's probably going to cost you about $15,000. That's what the hospital's going to charge the insurance policy. So
That should tell you everything you need to know.
And that's not doctor fees.
that's not doctor fee or epidurals.
yeah, if you get
anything
epidural,
else.
that's separate.
That's just the hospital.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what I found is with insurance, for some reason, they will pay for like prenatal visits, postpartum visits, but they won't pay for the birth because it's in your home.
Okay.
So I just submit super bills for
Interesting.
my clients, and they get reimbursed
So you're telling me
for all the prenatals and postpartum.
that there are ways
Oh, yes.
Yes.
that even hiring you,
Yes.
I can get some of it reimbursed,
Yes,
basically.
absolutely.
Yes.
Y'all.
Yes.
Okay, if you're listening right now and you have the idea of having a baby in the future, please call these people first of all. And if you don't live near, call someone. Just ask a lot of questions.
Yep.
And if you've already had your babies, and you got other babies coming on the way because you got grandchildren, maybe this is a really good option, and not just an option. I feel like there's something very, very cool about this. And so let me ask you this question, because here's what my wife would say. I know her very well. Here's what she would say. But I want a doctor. Like a doctor who's been to school, board certified, blah, 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 all the things. I'm just curious, how would you not necessarily defend yourself, but how would you say, let me explain this to you. What would you say to that? And I guess, Priscilla, this is
Yeah, I
probably
would just
to
say
you.
home birth is not for everybody. I'm not going to talk you into it.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I'm not going to do it. You have to want to do it. I'll educate you, but I'm not going to talk you into it. Or the
Well,
dad at that.
I would imagine someone who's anxious already is not going to be a good client.
Yes, that's.
I mean, unless they're up to being persuaded, but like if they're already like at 8, it's just not going to be. It's probably not going to be a good fit.
Right. And I also say, who do you plan on being at the birth? Who's going to be at your house? Oh, my mother-in-law. How do they feel about you having a home birth? Because if they're not comfortable, if they're feared, have fear about it, it's not gonna end well. We're
the
gonna
end
end
of
up
the day,
transferring
Add
because
their
of their
anxiety
feel.
to your anxiety, and that's no fun.
That winds up becoming a liability too, I would assume, somewhere along the way. And obviously, let's just talk business for this long. Like, you want to limit your liability on
Sure.
that, right?
I want you to want a home birth. I don't want to talk you into it.
Right.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
that's not.
That's not fair to anybody, really.
No.
No.
Well, I mean, we were talking earlier before the show got started that there's a perceived difference even between a home birth and a birthing center.
Yes. A lot of the dads, and I want to say dads because I guess the moms are a little more educated. Dads are kind of like, you want to do what? You want a home birth? You want a birth center birth? There is no difference. You can't have surgery at a birth center.
Right.
They have all the same equipment that we carry at home, oxygen, Pitocin after. We can give Pitocin after the birth to help clamp down the uterus. So it helps with hemorrhage. But we carry all the things for the baby as well. So there's really no difference. You do have to travel in labor to a birth center.
Right.
And then you go home about 4 hours later. Other than that, that's the difference between
So it's
home
actually
birth
more
and a birth center birth.
difficult.
It's
It
more
is.
difficult.
It's more difficult.
It is.
And it's more expensive. You're paying for the ambiance.
Double. It's double.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
And some people prefer it. Maybe their home isn't the place to labor. Maybe they live with other family members and they need a place to go. That's
Or they live in an
understandable.
apartment.
Yeah. And that's understandable to want to go to a birth center. But some women want the chandeliers and the nice
big
tub,
tub,
and
yeah.
all that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. So, but as far as safety or surgery or meds, if you can't get an epidural at a birth
Right.
center. So, you have to transfer to the hospital.
Well, I've heard more than one person who's used a birthing center say something like, "We thought we were going to have to wind up at the hospital for this or that or the other," and it's just no different.
Right.
There's no difference.
Yeah.
Well, when you said a minute ago that it was double, are you talking about like the cost?
The cost.
The cost of it.
The cost is more
Versus-
expensive. At a birth center, it's more expensive than to have your baby at home.
Okay.
Because you're paying the facility fee.
Okay. Yeah. That makes total sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying people should do that,
Right.
but it makes sense that it would be twice as expensive
Right.
than being
Right.
at home.
Because it's a facility
Yeah.
that has their own expenses.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
Most of our clients that have had a birth center experience, they choose home birth after.
After that.
Because they realize, I
that
don't
big
want
of
to
a deal.
travel in labor. I don't
Yeah.
want to travel after birth with a baby. I want to be home. So,
And they don't necessarily provide a meal or anything like that. The hospital does. It's not great. It is hospital food. But in your own home, if you've been in labor all day, you're going to ask your mother-in-law, your neighbor, "Hey, I think I'm in labor. Can you bring something to eat after?" You know,
Yeah.
that's when women support women. And so mom has typically already, made casseroles or food already in the freezer. So by the time the birth has happened in the home, it looks like nothing's happened. So like all the cleanup is done, the laundry started, and we've already fed mom. She has to eat and urinate. Baby has to eat and urinate before we leave.
can I tell you a really funny story?
Yes.
I think it's funny. Two actually. So before we ever, like the week before, we knew we were being induced. So that was already planned.
Number one, number two.
Number one.
Okay.
Number one, we're being induced. We made a lot of crock pot,
Yeah.
things
Yeah.
and frozen
Yeah.
them, lots of different things. We'd made like 2 weeks worth of food. And we also knew that we had, a church family that was going to be providing food as well, all these sorts of things. So we felt like, okay, we probably got a good month here in advance. And I posted something like, "Hey, we got food for a couple of weeks. We got this, no big deal." Blah blah. I did that on purpose because I knew so we'd get severe backlash. But so we did have that going. But we wound up when we were in the hospital with my second child, and it was Christmas Eve, and so the next day we'd gotten our food, and it's so funny the way because we got a receipt for our. I say it's a receipt. It's more like an itemized checklist of things that we got for our food, and it was Christmas Day. So we had it would say 1 turkey, 1 dressing, 1 gravy, 1 all these sorts of things, and at the very bottom it said 1 Merry Christmas. And it was a code that they had to punch in, and it put Merry Christmas on there. And I think I've still got that because I was like, we're
Wow.
keeping that because it was so funny because it said 1 Merry Christmas.
How much do they charge you for that?
Who
Merry
knows?
Christmas?
That Merry Christmas was probably like $15 or something, But it was so funny that they had to itemize every single little thing, and I was like, someone got a 1 Easter and like a 1 New Year's Day, right? So it was just pretty funny.
I've not seen one of
It
those.
was- I'm pretty sure we kept it now where it is right now.
I'm really more interested in what's the return policy on that.
Yeah, my Merry Christmas wasn't as good as I thought it should be.
Terrible.
Yeah, who do I need to talk to? The manager
Yeah.
to get that removed?
Yeah.
I don't really know.
Manager of food services.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things you just don't think about, like food. At that
Exactly,
moment,
exactly.
Like I just want a burger or something. Like I need
Exactly.
something to eat. I don't know.
Exactly.
There's so many things that, unfortunately, this is supposed to be a beautiful day.
Yes.
And it is a beautiful
Yes.
day.
But everybody is tired. Dad's
Everybody's
been doing this
exhausted.
as long as mom has. They're exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
So I will say, Uber Eats has really flourished in the
I
COVID
bet.
in the COVID time.
Oh, they have, yeah.
And that was always allowed in the hospital. So Dad could go down even if Dad wasn't allowed to go to his car, he'd go down the lobby and get his Uber Eats.
Interesting.
Yeah. So
Wow.
that has been really good for clients, especially those that, mom does all the cooking and now dad's expected to pick up where she left off and he's not feeding her very well. At least they can get Uber Eats.
Interesting.
Are you guys finding that mom and dad are more hesitant to go to the hospital over the last 2 years because of COVID?
yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
And,
definitely.
And from I mean, just obviously this is just your experience, but like, what are they opting more for home birth, or are they opting for like what are they trying to lean into?
They're definitely more open-minded to home birth
Yeah.
because of policies in the hospital.
And worried it's going to change. It may be one thing one day, and next week it's different.
Are they
Right.
worried about not being able to get a bed?
Sometimes
No.
that happens, though. I mean, we've had mamas in triage for a while.
Yes.
And it's not because of COVID. It's because the amount of women being induced.
Yes.
They're taking up the bed. So
And
if
the nurse shortage.
Yeah. And so when we have a mama in labor, they don't know what to do with them. They're like, go sit in the waiting room. We've got mamas coming in here already for induction. You got to wait, So that's the problem with the beds at the
And
hospital.
again, that's stressful.
Yes.
And
Like
labor and delivery.
we're doing things that are creating stress.
Yes.
That are unnecessary.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I get it. Like, it's not for everybody.
There are some inductions that need to happen.
Sure.
And as a nurse, I know that.
Well, and I here's the other
respect
thing.
it.
There
And I
are
respect it.
Sure. There are other people that we know are going to have a C-section.
Right.
Just going to happen. But that means you probably don't need a midwife in that moment, but you just still could use a doula.
Correct.
Right? So
Correct.
it's not that the services that you provide are unnecessary. It's just they probably are different than someone who's doing a home birth, right?
It's what I call a pivot point.
Yeah,
It's
sure.
a pivot point. If we have a client that decides to use Priscilla as a midwifery practice and uses me as the doula, and we get close to the end of pregnancy and baby's upside down, baby's butt 1st breech, can't deliver at home.
Nope.
Yeah.
So now we're going to pivot.
Yep.
Now we're going to pivot.
Well, so what? Let's maybe like speak to like first time mamas. Then, like, if you're planning on going to the hospital, I mean, because if they're going to like their mom or their friends who have had children previously, outside of the COVID era, what should they be expecting when they do go to the hospital? Maybe, I mean, just to kind of go like, okay, here's the things that you guys should be expecting that maybe you wouldn't normally have had to have done. And maybe that might change some mindsets about, how they want to proceed with their births.
Yeah. The first thing is you are probably not going to get any say whether you get an IV or not. You're going to have some kind of apparatus in your arm.
Okay.
That's hospital policy. Hospitals are really more open than they've ever been to birth plans. Back in the day when I was working, if a nurse saw a birth plan, she wouldn't read it because she thought it would be a bad omen for the client.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
In what way?
In that everything that she said she wants, everything that she said she wanted on there is going to be opposite.
Oh, so it's almost like
It's
we're
a jinx.
setting
It's
we're
a jinx.
We're setting you up for failure.
Exactly.
All these
exactly.
things. Okay.
But that was back in the day. We have come so far, and now nurses say, "Do you have a birth plan? Do you allow me to put in your birth chart?"
Interesting.
So, I mean, they're much more open to that, and I do like that. So, like, my mom never had a birth plan. She wouldn't even know how to develop one. You understand what I'm saying?
Sure.
So that would be different if someone went to my mom and say, what was it like to have your kid? Well, first of all, her husband wasn't even there. But with her third, my sister is 40, and my dad was allowed in there. So that's different. If you're going to ask people of an older generation, they're going to have an IV, and they're going to ask you for your birth plan. There's a lot of research about delayed cord clamping, and that's very different that our grandmothers and mothers still don't know about. It's still very controversial. There's studies that support both sides. But midwifery believes you should let the blood continue to pulsate to the baby and not clamp it and not cut it until it's done.
Oh,
Because the baby is getting a surge of extra blood.
okay.
Some research says that causes more jaundice. Other research says it's better to leave it. So midwife clients, their babies are fine. They don't have any jaundice.
So
no issues.
Real quick, want to be clear. Like you're saying, some of the research is saying by pre-clamping, it's causing jaundice.
Yes.
Okay.
Or leaving it pulsating as long as it wants.
That's also caused.
Yes.
No, just not pre.
Okay.
Letting it stop pulsating is causing the jaundice.
Okay.
But clamping too soon can cause anemia. So,
Okay. Well, like an anemia that like lasts forever.
well, I mean, there could be, I don't know how long. It just depends on, how
There's lots of things that go into that.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Yes. So a lot of moms are now educating themselves and trying to find the words to negotiate with their physician in the pregnancy about birth. How long will you give me to let that blood continue to pulsate?
Because they do it pretty quick. I mean,
It's usually, doctors will give you 1 to 3 minutes.
okay.
I cut that cord pretty quick.
That has been a big change. And how old is your youngest?
My youngest is 7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Same with mine. Mine's 6.
That is a new thing where mothers are being more advocating for themselves in the pregnancy. They have it in the birth plan, and they're talking to their doctor before labor even begins. How long will you let me let the blood pulsate before clamping?
And how long will they typically let you?
1 to 3 minutes.
Okay, so like unless you advocate and you can go longer than that?
Yes. You can wait until it stops pulsating, but it depends on your OB.
Yes.
In a home birth, we're going to wait till it stops pulsating as long as there's no complication.
Oh,
Correct.
interesting.
So those are the things that are changing that from other generations would not even know to ask.
Are OBs like picking up on that and like adopting some of these practices?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Some are.
The most I've seen is 3 minutes.
Okay.
They're not in there long. They catch and
Yeah.
that's about it.
Yeah.
Cut the cord and
Well,
Yeah,
I was
they
going to
leave
say
quick.
that. I mean, like our experience with our OB was like, I mean, he basically showed up with a catcher's mitt and,
Yeah.
Yeah.
we got the cord cut and then he was gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then he sends you a bill.
Yeah.
That's the way that goes.
Good for him.
Yeah. But there's other things that we need to talk about
Okay.
that we talked about the last time that we need to talk about, y'all. And because if we don't talk about it, I'm going to feel like we had an incomplete episode.
Okay.
And it's weird to me. But like the whole placenta thing that you save and like eat like wedding cake later.
It's not for dad. It's not for dad. We have been asked that. The dad said, "Do I take it?" No, not unless you're having some lactation problems or bleeding problems or mood issues.
If so, we probably have other issues.
Yeah, like I had some lactation issues. I'm sorry. I don't know what to do. No, but okay. So there's a very real service that you offer.
Mm-hmm.
And can you explain it? Because I'm going to screw it up. So please
Yes.
don't make me
Yes.
do it.
Yes. I want to go backward one more step.
Let's do it.
Asking the question about what's different between other generations, like maybe your older sister just had a kid. They're doing, which I'm very happy to see in the hospital setting. They're letting mamas eat clear liquid diet. Now, it's not food. It's broth, popsicles. I don't know if your wives were restricted to
Ice chips. Yeah.
We were.
They have progressed in this now. So
Interesting.
now it's soup and Jello and
Really?
tea and popsicles.
She would have been so much happier.
I know.
What has changed that?
I think it's because they're realizing that was very restrictive to the mom. It's too restrictive. We're asking her to fast, and
In labor.
and she has to run a marathon essentially.
Well, but like, why do that in the first place?
Why they did it in the first place
Yeah.
was they were worried that if she got an epidural and she had gastric juices in her stomach and something happened with the epidural that it didn't work or it was bad or baby didn't do well and they needed an immediate emergent C-section. We got to get the baby out in 3 minutes. Something's gone awry. They have to put mom to sleep. They put a tube down her throat. And if she regurgitates, whatever's gastric juices that are in her stomach go to her lungs. It's called aspiration.
Oh, yeah.
So they're worried. It's about worry.
Right.
It was about fear.
It's about CYA is what that is.
Oh, yes, I
Yeah.
didn't want to say those words, but you read my mind. That's exactly right. So they're realizing now that those instances are super, super rare. That first of all, we even have to do an emergency C-section.
Right.
Emergency means less than 3 minutes. We got to get this baby out.
Right.
Okay. Very rare to need that. But there are instances where you get the epidural and it drops your blood pressure so low they have to give you medicine to raise it. And if it doesn't raise, baby doesn't like it, now we have to consider a C-section.
Yeah.
And the anesthesiologist wants to know, when was the last time you ate and what did you eat? They have to know so they can neutralize those acids in your stomach.
Interesting.
The other thing that's changed, and I'm really, really happy about, is they're really promoting skin to skin. That when the baby's born, no matter how quick they cut the cord, they're really wanting to undress mom, get baby tucked in like a kangaroo. They want baby skin to skin.
That
on mom.
was even a big deal whenever, like
Yes.
7 years ago.
Yes.
That was a big
Yes.
deal then.
Yes.
And
And
even
that's
9 years ago,
That's
whenever my
something that
daughter.
home births have done from the very
Sure. But again, okay, let's say this before we get to the weird stuff. Let's say this because I think this is important. In those moments, mom and dad don't have a clue. The nurse is saying this, the doctor is saying this, or we're looking around, we're going,
Yeah.
I don't know, and having a doula in there to go, okay, as your advocate, here's what I suggest.
correct.
Because you're sitting here saying, Priscilla, that 3 weeks before this person was supposed to, 40 weeks is normal, right?
Right.
3 weeks early, hey, I'm having these things. You're able to go and say, I think you're good. Mm-hmm. Here's what you can do to fix this, or to at least temper it until, blah, blah, blah. I'm sure that person was so happy.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Because not having to stress, not having to go in to the doctor, because look, every time you walk into a doctor's office, they're going to charge you money.
Yeah.
Almost every time, right? So
Right.
now it's more money, now it's more this, now it's more that. But just having someone in the moment going, look, they've done everything that they can do. You're going to have an emergency C-section.
Right.
I'm going to be right here whenever you get back.
Exactly.
Like all of those conversations
Exactly.
make me as a dad and her as, the mom look at this and go, okay, they've done everything they can.
Right.
And Kristina agrees.
Right.
Priscilla agrees.
Right.
This is the right thing to do.
Right.
Dad doesn't know.
Right.
Dad's like, what? I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, he didn't know to begin with.
Correct. Correct.
I don't know.
And that has happened, and we've had to give moms, especially if we have time, if it's not emergent, it's what you call urgent.
Okay.
So we really try to respect the couple and say, I know this is not what you planned. It's not what I planned for you. I'm going to give you all some moments alone.
Wow.
And Priscilla and I will step out and then come back in 10 minutes and say, are you good? This is a grieving process, but you are in very good hands. You're in a very good hospital. You can't go forward with any regret. Tell me, do you have any regret? Let's talk about it. And the nurses are doing their thing, getting the paperwork done and all that.
But that's the thing. They're doing their thing. They're getting their
Correct.
paperwork done. They're doing all the
Correct.
things, and they come back. Did
Correct.
you make a decision yet? Are you sure? It's time to make a decision. You have to make a decision right now. And
Yeah.
and it's a little bit urgent.
Yeah.
It's a little bit weird.
Yeah.
It's a little bit
Yeah.
like, I don't know what's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
but if you were here,
Yeah.
either one of you, I could go, babe, she said this was the right thing to do. And while I don't know what I'm doing,
Yeah.
and you don't know what you're doing,
Yeah.
she said this is the best thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just another voice.
Right.
I call
And
it,
it's not
I call
mom
it
or
pivot
it's,
points.
it's
Yeah.
not your mom,
No, it's not.
because your mom makes
It's not.
your mom is emotional too.
Yes.
It's all emotional.
Yeah. Yes.
You're able to remove the emotion and look
sometimes
at
we're crying with the client. We're
Sure.
sad too. But we're saying, you know what? No one can say you didn't try.
Right. It's about trying, doing everything possible before we end up in a C-section. And that's what our job is to try
Yeah.
everything. We're thinking for them. They don't have to.
Yeah, and if all things go wrong, I mean, you can still eat the placenta.
Absolutely. We definitely recommend eating your
yum.
placenta if you have a C-section.
Yum, yum.
You're going to need it.
I don't even know what you just said. Can you please explain why this is a thing?
It is a thing. It's a good thing. So it's called placenta encapsulation.
Okay.
So we take the placenta. Essentially, what's keeping the pregnancy viable is the placenta. It has a lot of hormones. It keeps the pregnancy going. It produces it allows blood and oxygen to flow, and it goes through the cord to the baby. The lungs are bypassed with the baby because the blood is already oxygenated. The baby does not use the digestive tract until the baby's outside the body because mom is digesting all the food for baby. So the placenta is the lifeline. So if you want to think about it in more primitive manners, animals eat their placenta. And we talked about that last time too. It has a lot of hormones in there. There are 2 studies that were done, and they were repeatable, and that's what makes it valid. They went looking for 17 different hormones, and they found 15. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
And to have that done twice, that's a big deal. So that's what we advocate for our clients, is to consider it. You don't have to make the decision until the time of birth. If you're unsure about it, you want to do more research, that's fine. We're not going to pressure you in the pregnancy time. But at delivery, you kind of got to decide it's going to go in the trash, it's going to go in a bucket, and we're going to process it. So we clean it, we steam it for 20 minutes, recommended by the CDC. And we take off the edges of the bag, separate it from the placenta, take all off the cord from the base, and then we steam it. That cleans all the bad stuff out of it, all the bacteria, all the viruses that could be bad for mom. Anything longer takes away the good parts. So we only do it for 20 minutes. Then we cut it up in pieces so it looks like a swollen roast. It like swells up fat. Then we cut it up in pieces and put it in a dehydrator for 10 to 12 hours, depending on how many pieces there are. Then we put it in a grinder. It comes like a powder. And then we put it by hand into each capsule with the lid. So mom swallows those. There's a protocol to take them. You take them once your milk has come in, and you take them several days in a row, several pills, and then you titrate down until they're gone. You get anywhere between 50 to 200 pills in one placenta. Depends on how big it is. It helps with mood.
It makes me feel better that you're not chewing it.
No, you're not chewing
You know?
it. No.
You know what I mean?
Now, some women do, but that's not
We
how
don't
we
do
press
that.
it.
We
No.
don't do that.
Okay.
Sounds like there's room for bragging, though. I mean, 50 to 200.
Yes.
There's scores to be kept.
I had
How many pills did yours
195.
make?
Oh, 67 was it? Okay. It's always a size thing, right?
Sure,
Like my
sure.
placenta was bigger than yours.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. It's good for mood control for moms.
Okay.
So you're talking about crying. It's good for that because it replaces a lot of those hormones. It's good for milk supply, and it's good for iron supplementation.
Which all of those things are huge.
Yes.
And maybe the most important is the milk supply. I think that, I can't speak for everyone. I know some people have way more than they can deal with, but my wife wasn't there.
Yes.
I mean, we were happy with the production that we had, and I say we, it's fine, right?
You can be happy about
Right,
that.
I can be happy about it. And she was able to pump and get some extra and whenever we needed it. But, I know a lot of people that they have so much that they donate and those sorts of things, which is beautiful.
We do have a lot of that.
Yeah, and it's beautiful. I mean, if you're able to do that, there's something really beautiful about that. But again, I know too many cases where it's just difficult.
Sure.
Yeah.
And in those moments, it's like one thing leads to the other. So,
Yes.
you have bad milk production and then you have the crying,
Yes.
and so it's like all the things. So if you, and I know the iron has something to do with the milk production, and all of these things are a little bit interconnected. And so if you can maybe do something but that's a service that you offer.
Yes.
It is.
And it's extra.
It is extra. It's not in the package of the
a la
doula
carte.
service. Yeah. But we like to tell people, it's like insurance. You don't know if you're going to need it.
Mm-hmm.
If you've had 3 babies already and you've never done it before, you don't know if you're going to need it for number 4.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know.
Right. And you may not need it right after birth, but you may need it at 6 weeks or 6 months postpartum. You have dips in hormones, and save it for when you need it.
Do mom and dad need to be making this decision how far in advance?
Just do your research, and we just need to know at the time of birth.
Okay, so you can make that decision up
Yes.
until that day.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Because you're gonna have the bucket.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
The bucket comes into the room with it. It was like, what is that for? It's a bucket. What kind of bucket? It's
We
a
bring-
placenta.
You don't want to know.
You know what that.
we bring our own ice test. So
Yeah, sure.
during COVID, that was a problem. That sometimes the hospital will say, well, we don't have an ice chest for it. And we tell the dad, meet us in the lobby. We have our ice chest with us. All you got to do is bring it down with ice.
Interesting.
Yeah. So some clients
What
hire us
you're
just
referring
for
to
that.
is when they weren't letting you guys in the room.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Correct. We can still process.
There's
the
ways
placenta.
around this.
Oh,
Yes.
yes. The only thing is the hospital staff cannot add preservative to it.
Okay.
So we tell our clients in the class, if you're thinking about placenta encapsulation, you're on the fence, you can make that decision at that time, but it has to be before they put preservative.
like salt.
No, formaldehyde.
Okay, like why? Okay, I have questions. Why would a hospital be putting preservative on placenta that they're not using?
If they're going to test it.
They're going to test it. Mm-hmm. Why? Okay.
So if a mom is diabetic
Okay.
and on insulin, the doctor may ask that it go to the lab.
Okay. So if a mom's diabetic and the doctor insists that it go to be tested, you guys can't touch it then.
Not if it has formaldehyde on it, correct.
They can take
Or
a
salt.
piece. Well, they can take a piece of it and test it and give us the rest. I've gotten a placenta back that was all tore up.
Okay.
So,
They're salvageable
as long
bits.
as they're not putting
Yes.
Okay.
preservatives on it, we
Some
can process
some
it.
say they want Memorial Hermann and specifically always wants to know what the mom's status of hepatitis is, and they won't release the placenta to us until they have a negative result.
Okay.
Okay.
And so that has to go for testing. So we tell them don't let them put preservative on it, and it has to be in the refrigerator and has to be labeled. So sometimes the mom has that baby in the hospital, has already paid for the placenta encapsulation for us to do it, but we have to go back 24 hours later and pick it up.
But again, advocacy.
Yes.
These are things that in the
Yes.
moment, I promise you're not going to think about.
Right.
Correct.
You're going to think about, like, am I okay? Are you okay? Oh, by the way, I'm exhausted. Those are the things that are...
So they're testing for like the bad hep, I'm guessing.
Yes.
Okay. Which one is that? Hep
C.
Hep C. Okay. Yeah. And so you're saying you guys can't do what you need to do with preservative. What does the preservative do to it that makes it
Null and void is no longer valid or acceptable for her body.
really?
Yeah, because that preservative, I mean, how do we get it out? It's been soaked up in there.
Yeah. I mean, up until the last time that we talked, I would have never thought that I'd be saying someone needs to eat placenta, but no one really needs to eat formaldehyde either. So
Correct.
that one I can say
there's only-
definitively.
There's only one thing in my mind that's worse than eating your placenta. It's formaldehyde placenta. So
Formaldehyde?
Yeah.
It's placenta laced with formaldehyde.
Laced. Oh my goodness!
It's just
wow.
a skosh.
It's a skosh. Oh my gosh! Oh man, the things that we talk about in the Homeowners Show. You never know, y'all. You never know.
That's true.
Aren't you glad you tuned in?
Yeah.
Aren't you glad you tuned
Learn
in?
something every day.
Formaldehyded placenta that we learned from midwifery.
Yes, that comes through the vagina. I just wanted to say all the words.
All the words.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah. There's although that is one of my favorite Seinfeld episodes, by the way. Are y'all any of you Seinfeld episode fans? No, I know Craig vaguely.
Oh, I am.
Times. Yeah. So there's this one episode where Jerry cannot remember his girlfriend's name.
Oh, it rhymes with the female anatomy.
Yeah, it reminds me of the female body part, and he can't remember. And so she's like, "You don't remember my name, do you?" And he's like, "Yes, I do." And she's like, "What is it?" And he goes, Mulva? And she goes, "It's Dolores." So anyway, it's a really, really, really funny moment. Mulva.
To rhyme with vulva.
Yes. Oh, it's so funny. It's Dolores. Anyway. Oh, man.
And do you know the Spanish version of pain is dolor? So,
Oh, really?
Yeah, I bet they picked Dolores for a reason.
It's clitoris. That's the one.
Oh, okay.
That's what it reminds. That's what it rhymes
I'm
with.
thinking Spanish.
Yeah.
You know, pain.
Man, saying all the words, man. Saying all the words.
What else you got in there, Kev?
I don't know. Well, I got other words, but they're not appropriate either. Like, it's like I told someone once, I was like, I know some Spanish words, but they are not going to make me happy afterwards. You're going to be very frustrated with me after I use them on you. I know all the bad words. That's all the ones I know. Anyway. All right, here's a question. What's anything that we haven't discussed that you would really like to discuss? Ooh, we did good.
We
Craig.
did good.
We did. Like, most of the time, there's always like, oh, well, you forgot this really important thing.
I think you got it.
I think you got it.
That's really good. That's really good. Well, I don't know, Craig. What else do we need to talk about?
Well, I mean, Christina's done the Final Four before.
She has. In fact, I was about to say we've got to do the Final Four,
But
with Priscilla.
we got the rookie over
Kristina, you are definitely exempt from this moment. If
Okay.
any of you want to hear Christina's Final Four, you're going to have to go back and listen to it. But as it is right now, Priscilla, it is time for the Final Four.
The Final Four.
That's right. And I actually pressed the wrong button and it said, welcome to the show. It's supposed to say the Final Four over here. Man, we're all over the place. I think it was clitoris.
I got the claps in, though.
It was clitoris. That was the point at which everything kind of fell apart.
Not be part of the Final Four.
I was trying to figure out what rhymes with Dolores.
I know. It took me a little while the first time I ever watched the show. I'm like, Dolores. Oh, there it is.
There's a reason they didn't say it on the show either.
That's right. All right. Well, I don't know if you have been informed, but if you have not, there are 4 questions that we ask each and every one of our guests. Have you been informed?
I have not.
Okay, this is awesome.
Supposedly, she listened to the last episode.
Oh,
so, you know.
Okay. Well, we'll see. These are the final 4 questions we ask all of our guests, and they're pretty simple questions. And if you fail, it's really up to you. All right. So
it just means the end of your life.
Yeah,
as
that's
we know
right.
it.
So here's the final 4 questions. Here's the first one. You ready? Mm-hmm. All right. What's the must-have tool you won't leave your house without?
Doppler.
A Doppler, like
You're like a
weather?
meteorologist?
Are we analyzing the weather over here?
We have gone into another topic.
Right. All of a sudden, of all the things you were gonna say, like I would not have said a Doppler. Is that like the beep?
So I can pick up baby heart tones.
Okay.
Is that really what it's for?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's called a Doppler.
Oh man, I'm so confused right now.
We grew up with Doppler radar.
Yes, we did. Like that was the big deal. It's like the Doppler radar is finding.
Well, it is
like
radio
4
frequency. So.
Is it the same technology? I mean, like, is it?
It's radio frequency, so.
Yeah.
So, like, I know you've been in doctor visits with your wives.
Yes.
When they were pregnant, and they put the little monitor on the baby's on the belly to hear the heartbeat.
Yeah, it's like a little belt that they put on there.
Well, not just, no. I mean, that's a form of it.
Mine was more like in 3/4. But go ahead.
She's so confused right now. She's like,
I am.
So mine was 6'8", so it's fine. Yeah, it's a little bit faster.
That's right.
A little bit faster. It wasn't a waltz though.
Oh, you're talking about the heartbeat.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So no, it's a little bitty device, and you put a little bit of gel on it, and then when you get closer, you can hear, ee, and then it goes da 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 da, and it tells you on there what the baby's heartbeat is.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wow. So it does not tell you if there's a tornado in the
No.
area.
No.
There's one coming.
You're not going to expect it. It's going to feel like a tornado.
Yeah.
But here it comes. Good luck. Grab your mama. Grab your sister.
Good luck. Godspeed.
That's right. All the things.
All
Right.
right.
All right.
Okay, that's the first time we've ever had that one.
Yeah. There's been a lot of things we've had. The cell phone being number 1. Doppler, never. Probably never again. Probably never
won't.
again.
Probably won't.
All right, I got
So-
it bigger than a breadbasket.
It's about
Okay.
Size of your
No
hand.
one can see that.
Size of your
Yeah,
hand.
Size of your
there you
hand.
go.
There we go.
size of your hand.
Okay.
Okay. All right. The Doppler. All right.
You
Good.
need- I want one now.
No, you don't. It's weird.
Just because I don't
Only
have
a
it.
midwife would say a Doppler.
I would agree.
I would hope so, unless we had a meteorologist on here. And if he's saying a Doppler, I'm feeling like, what are you from the 90s?
No, it's like I want to be like on that one time when like it's sort of like having a pocket knife, like the one time you need it. Like, anybody got a Doppler?
Right.
Yes, I do.
Yes, I do. I can pull it out right now if you want to see it.
It's in my hip pocket.
Right. It's also weird if you say anyway, I'm going to keep
You
going.
kind of resembled Kramer in that moment. Yes, I do.
That's awesome. Oh, we're back to Seinfeld. I love it. All right, next question. So what's a job you walked away from? Now, let me preface this for a minute. So when we created this question, it was
because it's never been asked before.
No, never been asked before correctly, actually. Is we wanted to ask the question, what's a project at your house that you walked away from? But we didn't ask that. We asked, what's a job you walked away from? It could mean the very same thing, or it could mean I actually walked away from a career or something like that. But as you hear the question, what's a job you walked away from? How would you answer that question?
It would be from a client. So basically firing a client.
Okay. Okay, how did that go, and why did you fire a client?
because I wasn't being treated fairly.
Oh,
So
okay.
just because I'm a provider doesn't mean I have to provide.
Yeah.
If we don't get along or you're treating me poorly,
Sure.
So I have given money back and said, you need to find somebody else.
Offering services is not entitlement to services. Yeah. I'm with you.
Well, sure. I mean, I think that, on some level, all of us in here deal with that from a professional standpoint.
Yeah.
It's like, look, I'm still a person.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Right.
And
If I leave your house every time I'm here and I'm miserable or I dread coming to you, and I'm supposed to touch you, put my hands on you, and it's a negative feeling, that's not fair to me or you. So it's just time to cut ties.
yeah, no, it's good.
I think you're right. I think that's a reality in this room. I think there's a lot of people outside of this room that don't live in reality.
No, I would agree with
Very
that.
true.
Yeah.
Very true.
So
Yeah.
Good point.
Not everybody's a good fit, so
Yeah,
it's,
fair enough.
yeah.
All right, next question. How do you wind down at the end of a long day?
I'm in my garden or messing with my plants.
oh,
So they always need water.
That's true. I don't know what it is about those stupid plants. They always
Someone
need
told
water.
me.
They're so needy all the time. It's like every time I turn around, he's like,
They
"You're
need
wilting a
water."
little bit there, aren't you?"
Yeah. Someone told me a good gardener is a great mother.
Oh,
So,
interesting.
what kind of stuff you growing?
That explains a
of
lot,
herbs.
actually.
bunch of herbs.
Okay.
Herbs and vegetables.
Are you using the herbs? I mean, like, are you
Yeah.
cooking with them?
Yeah.
What's your
I'm
favorite?
I'm learning. So I bought this infuser. It's called a Levo or Levo or something like that. It was on Facebook, and it infuses the oil with the herbs.
Oh.
So I'm excited to do that. Yeah,
That's cool.
I bought herbs to play around with recipes, but now I want to grow them.
Yeah.
Well, we had a really cool episode with the lady who's a gardener. That's what she does.
Oh, awesome.
And
Jill McShee.
she.
Is that, am I saying right?
McSheehy, I think.
Yeah.
Something like that. Jill. I'm sorry. We know you better than that. She's a friend on Facebook.
Okay.
I bought her book.
She's awesome. She actually is a top seller on Amazon, and but she lives in Arkansas and she gardens. And it was one of those deals where for her it just kind of happened, and she was like, one of these days I'll do this, and now she does it like at a really high level.
Wow,
So
that's awesome.
yeah, we've got an
I love
episode.
it.
One of those episodes we did.
On a certain number back in the day.
Back in the day, it's been a while at this
Yeah.
point. You can go find it, and you would probably be interested in that episode. Jill, she's wonderful. So, all right, cool. Next question, last question. Are you ready for this?
Sure.
What's one of the best pieces of wisdom or advice you've ever received?
Let me think. It's not how much money you make, it's how much you keep.
That's a good.
I like that. Yeah, and look.
So, making a ton of money doesn't necessarily bring you happiness.
Right.
Oh, it definitely doesn't.
So,
I would actually venture to say that it's the opposite.
yeah.
Making a lot of money can be a huge burden
Oh yeah.
on you for sure. So definitely. Well, we have one other question. Sorry.
Yeah, it's a secret question.
It's a secret question that we never tell anybody about.
This
unless you
final
listen.
five just doesn't
it
roll
doesn't-
off the tongue.
It's not the same exactly, but Craig asked this question. He likes this question, so he's
the only one I get to ask.
It's the only one who remembers.
Yeah.
So here he goes. Go
Right.
for it.
If people want to get a hold of you, how do they find you?
Well, they can search Motherly Transitions, Doula and Midwifery Services on Google. We're on Facebook and Instagram.
Yes.
So,
Yeah. You guys have a website?
yes.
What's that?
Motherlytransitions.com.
Okay. Is there a phone number for the business?
Sure. It's 713-562-0105.
Cool. And if they go to Facebook, Instagram, it's going to be under.
Motherly Transitions.
There you go. Easy enough.
Yep. All right. Well, listen, it has been wonderful having you on here. We get to say words we never get
Again
to say.
and for the first time.
Yeah, again and for the first time. It's honestly, like, this is one of those things that people should talk about more often.
Yes, they should.
And we don't talk about it because, whatever reason, we're weird people.
Guys definitely don't
Guys
talk about
don't talk about it. No, there's a lot of things guys don't talk about. We talk about the things we want to talk about. And if it does not involve, like, golf or it's weird because it does involve things that guys talk about.
Yes.
Just the aftermath of.
Yeah.
So anyway, thanks for coming.
Thank you for having us again.
It's been really, really good.
Yes.
So Priscilla, it's
Thank
great
you.
to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
And I'm a huge advocate for y'all.
Thank
as
you.
y'all advocate for other people. So everybody else that's out there, thanks for downloading today's episode. If you haven't already, click the subscribe, the like button. Leave us a 5-star rating and review on iTunes. That would be FaceTime also would be a great place to do that.
Sure, why not?
We appreciate you.
Yeah.
Thanks for downloading it. Until next time, we'll see you later.
See you.